Fstoppers.com has been dedicated to teaching photography for 5 years now. And if you go to fstoppers.com/store, you can see our premium photography tutorials taught by some of the most talented photographers in the world. So far, every tutorial that we've released has been geared towards professionals in the field. And if you're an amateur or you're just getting into photography, in many cases, our premium photography tutorials are going to be way over your head. And that's why we're constantly asked to create an intro to digital photography course, and I'm excited to say it's finally ready. This tutorial is all about the fundamentals of photography. And the nice thing about the fundamentals is they work throughout all genres of photography, and they also work with all different types of cameras. So whether you have a DSLR, a point and shoot camera, or just a cell phone, you're going to be able to use these tips and tricks to elevate your photography. To make sure this video is helpful for you no matter what camera you're actually learning on, we decided to teach this entire tutorial with 3 separate cameras. We have a Nikon DSLR, a Canon DSLR, and a Sony point and shoot camera. And what we're able to do is show you where you can find each of the manual settings on each of these different cameras. Obviously, every camera is going to be slightly different, but luckily the same technology goes into each camera that was made manually 50 years ago and the new digital cameras today. So hopefully after watching this tutorial, no matter what camera you have, you're easily going to be able to figure out how to use it and how to control it manually. The biggest problem I currently see with amateur photographers today is that they never move out of the automatic settings. If you leave your camera in green square mode and you just let the camera make all of the decisions for you, you're never going to be in charge of actually creating an image. You're just leaving it up to the camera. This tutorial is all about moving out of those automatic settings, using your camera in manual mode, and really making a conscious decision with each choice you make with the camera when it comes to camera settings, but also composition and color, and then afterward putting those pictures into Photoshop and creating a finished image that you envisioned rather than just getting lucky and hoping that the camera comes up with a great shot. Because she's gonna be moving around, she's gonna be walking towards the camera, she's gonna be flipping her dress, I wanna freeze that action. I don't wanna see any sort of motion blur. So I'm going to have to use a faster shutter speed. But because we're raising up our shutter speed, remember we're losing a bunch of light, and therefore we have to bump up our ISO even more. After we learn about all of the manual settings that really pertain to any digital camera, we'll then go into the gear itself. And we'll go through why some lenses cost 10 times more than other lenses that seem to have very similar specs. Why are some cameras so much more expensive than others? And why are some cameras so much bigger than others? Does that really translate into better photography? Once you have a good idea of which camera gear you might be interested in purchasing, we will then move on to lighting. We're going to go outside and I'm going to show you how you can pick out incredible locations to get great looking shots without adding any sort of external light. There's beautiful light everywhere around us, but it's all about placing your subject in the most flattering light. And so instead of this pinpoint light in the sky that's creating harsh shadows, now you probably don't see a single shadow on my face at all because I'm being lit from every single direction here. And of course, over my shoulder here, you'll see the sun behind me. And it's creating this really nice hair light or this golden highlight, which is cutting me out from the darker background. After you have a good understanding of how natural light and bounce light works, we're then going to introduce a speed light, and I'm going to show you how these little flashes can really add to your photography. If you do invest the money in a speed light, I don't want to see you pointing it forward at your subject. What you're really paying for is the ability to bounce this flash. I'm gonna point it at the reflector here, and let's take a shot. And I think this looks awesome. Now, we all know just how important post-processing is to digital photography these days, but if you've ever opened up Photoshop for the first time, you know just how complicated that software can be. And therefore, I am very excited to announce that there is a 2.5-hour section of this tutorial created by Pratik from Solstice Retouch. He's one of the top retouchers in the world, and he's going to teach you the fundamentals of Photoshop so that you can take those standard-looking digital files and make something really special with them. In some of the later chapters in this tutorial, you're going to be able to work side by side with Pratik or me on the exact same files. I can remember when I first started learning photography and how frustrating it was to try to find the answer to all of my questions. I read books and I took classes, but it was such a slow process. And so my goal for this tutorial is to include all of the answers to the questions that I had when I was first getting started. Even though Fstoppers is geared towards the working photographer, I know that the majority of Fstoppers readers have no interest in becoming full-time professional photographers. Maybe you have an interest in taking better portraits of your children, maybe you want to take better pictures while you're on vacation, or maybe you just want to take your hobby to the next level. If so, this is the tutorial for you. As soon as you buy it, you'll be able to start downloading and start watching these video files. And of course, these files are completely unlocked as well. So if you want to watch them on your phone, your iPad, your laptop, your computer, or your TV, you're going to be able to do that. If you have a desire to become a professional photographer, you have to master the basics first, and that's what this tutorial is all about. Once you master the fundamentals found in this tutorial, then you'll be able to move on to any genre of photography that you're interested in. I see too many people trying to take the jump into wedding photography without fully understanding how their camera works. But once you watch this tutorial, you'll be able to download any of the other tutorials in the Fstopper store and fully understand what those photographers are teaching.